Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you're all doing excellent. Today we're working on kind of a simple project, but something that has to get done, which is the theme of all the stuff on the channel lately. So thank you for staying tuned with us as we get ready for the engine swap for the right-hand drive FC. So today what I want to work on is getting the power wires cleaned up out of the engine bay and making a custom fuse and relay box to go in the back battery storage to power the fuel pump and the wideband sensor for the engine swap. So right now, if you didn't see the other episode, we removed the battery and replaced everything with this power junction block in the engine bay. It's going well, but as you can see here, I still have these extra accessory wires I ran, and as you can see, they're kind of unsightly and not that well secured because making this change was always part of the plan. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be moving this little fuse box, which is just held here with zip ties, and these wires into the back. So this is the stereo, and this is the remote start where these wires come from. And then we're going to be pre-making, using some relays, so kick one on the floor, and possibly this piece, if not another piece of ABS plastic, a nice mount for the fuse box and these relays. Again, we need to put a relay for the fuel pump because we're going to be running a Walbro 450 LPH, and then the wideband sensor, which is part of the Haltech unit, actually needs 12 volts on a switched power source, and since I'm daisy chaining it with a thermocouple amplifier, if you don't know what that means, it's basically the way the CAN system works to get multiple devices connected to the Haltech. It's going to need a fused relay 12 volt source, which is pretty easy to set up. So we're going to set that up, and also I'm going to run an ignition wire source to the back. That's important as well because we need an ignition source, which we're going to be using as the trigger for turning the Haltech on. So when you turn the car on, it knows to turn on the computer. And also we're going to be using a ignition on source to trigger that relay for the wideband sensor, so that it's not running all the time or running off of a switch. So just when you turn the key, it turns right on. So the first thing I need to do is just start pulling some wires. So we're going to disconnect all these, start pulling them through the engine bay, back into the cabin, because the battery is now on the back passenger side, which means I need my trusty old wire hanger. So I've tried a lot of ambitious things on this channel before I do it yourselfer, and I'm about to try one of the more ambitious things I've ever done. This mess here, my interior completely uninstalled, is to get all the wires passed through. We have to go behind the dash, through here, under the armrest, underneath the carpet. We're going to go back into this storage bin where the amp wire runs out, underneath, and into the battery bay where we're going to make our fuse block. In order to cut corners and save time, I think this is the amp wire. We can significantly shorten that because it doesn't have to go to the front anymore. It can just go right back here. What I've done is I've taken all the cables I need to pull, which is just 3. This is the power for our remote start system. This is some power for the radio and head unit. This is power for the door locks. I'm going to attempt, I've shrink wrapped them all end to end, and I'm going to attempt to just pull on this wire and pull all of this through. I will be using copious amounts of WD-40, which is the only lubricant I have available besides engine oil, to try and make this as easy as possible. However, I still anticipate some challenges. So, wish me luck. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Please. please. Okay. Oh, I already got it. It's through. Phew. Okay. Now, oh, should probably have a grommet there. Okay. So now, just need to make sure I don't get any unwanted tangles. And it's through. All right. So now we can work on routing the wires and actually making this fuse block. So after pulling that through, I feel pretty victorious and also making good progress here. So let me lay this out kind of the way I'm thinking of having it. So I actually went for the larger fuse block. So I had this little one in the engine bay. This one I actually had wired up in the armrest of the burnt FC. And this one is obviously has a lot more functions to it, and it also has this ground block, so you can just put a ground from your battery and have access to all these individual ones for ground, all these ones for power. And I want to be able to fit possibly 4 relays. We'd only need 2 for certain, but who knows what other upgrades are lie in the future. So I'm just leaving myself enough room to add on 2 more if necessary. And I do want to make a note, these style of relays are really cool because they come 30 amp fused right here instead of having to run off of this. But since I have this available and these relays, I want to do it off of this block, and this is the reason why. These little red lights here make it so easy to know if you've blown a fuse. So this is going to be down inside the battery bay in the storage bin in the back, and it's going to be a little annoying to try and see if this fuse is blown by looking at the element, or if I can just look down in there and see, oh, I have a light that's red, I know that fuse is blown if something goes weird. And obviously I have a lot more functionality for adding and expanding in the future, and like I said, I can add more relays as well. I am going to lose the option of mounting this on here. I could mount it temporarily here. Actually, you know what, I might do that. Or what I can do is, here's the top of the storage bin from the engine bay. Sorry, let me stand it up if it'll lean there. Okay, cool. This is the top of the storage bin. So obviously I took it out of the car. It's going to be a lot easier to work with. I can mount this anywhere as well, just to get it fused on the plastic here. So we'll see. But I marked off where I want the panel to be, so I know what space I'm working with. And this is an extra I mentioned when I made the mount for the Haltech ECU and the footwell of the passenger side. And I cut this curvature, and it actually matches up perfect when it goes down into the storage bay to clearance everything. So I'm getting a little lucky with that today. First I was able to pull all those wires through successfully, and now I've got a pre-cut piece that's going to work out. So I'm going to mark this up, drill some holes, and we'll get it assembled. So far so good. I'm really happy with the way it's turning out. I know I'm a total nerd, but I have these rib nuts in here, which is my newest tool that I got, and I'm really excited to work with it. But also check this out. Since there's some part of them that extend behind this plate, let me get this off. I just drilled matching holes in the part of the storage bin that it's going to go into, and now it just like slots into place perfectly. So lining everything else up and working with it is going to be even easier. But now I need to actually bolt this to this piece. It's pretty easy. I think I'm just going to use an existing hole from my previous project. Put rib nut there, and it should be good to go. right, check it out. That looks pretty cool. I'm obviously going to install it back in there in a minute and actually run some wires to it. And also I'm going to mock up these with the harnesses I have here so that it looks a little bit cooler even. But I'm excited how this is turning out. It's a fun little project while I'm waiting for some more parts to get shipped to swap this engine. But anyway, right now I actually need to go pull a few more wires. I need to figure out what to do with this fuse for the amp. I think, as I mentioned, I'm going to mount it somewhere around here. Use my riv nuts, which I'm overusing right now. And yeah, start on that. So everything is going really well. Getting everything set up pretty nicely in here. I've just been taking some time doing some detail work. So let me show you what that looks like. So down in here where the wires come underneath the shift boot cover, I put a nice little P-clamp there to make sure those are routed and don't move around, rub anything, or get in the way of the shifter. Back here, I've just been routing our wires around. And since I took the time to make those riv nut inserts, it makes it very easy to pull this out and make the connections I need and put it back in. So I'm just about to run the power wires to this battery terminal connector, which is why that's a part there. And also, I've been taking time to solder up the large gauge connections. So everything that I have is crimped on, and then I have a copious amount of solder put into each connection there. So I'm hoping that'll keep it nice and secure and very conductive. And to do it, I know I always rant about this thing, but I got this really simple TechPo whatever heat gun. And since I hate using a soldering iron, especially on bigger applications like an 8-gauge wire here, I've just been cranking this baby on full, heating it up, and then once it gets a certain temperature, I can just feed the solder in and just goes right into the joint. And it's making things very easy for me to work with. So cannot recommend this enough. I'm just going to put it in the description because since I got this, it's made wiring and now even soldering so much easier. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the interior back together, connect all the wires away. I think they should be connected, and test to see if everything works. I finished tidying everything up, put the interior back together. I think everything's going to work just fine. Let me just show you our final deal. So we got our nice fuse panel tucked away back there. We've got our, that's the fuse panel. We got our relays here. I got the amp fuse mounted nice down here. Everything's riv nutted in there. We've got our connections here. So this one actually powers the fuse block. These two go to the amp through this here, and then this is another fused line that goes to the remote starter unit. And everything's tucked away up front. I have a wire ran to the back that I'm going to splice into a 12-volt ignition source, like I mentioned, to run the things we need to be switched on with the ignition, such as the fuel pump. So that's back there, just sitting there, ready to be used. And now, where did I put my keys? They're in my pocket. Let's see if everything works. Okay. Well, first, let's see. Door locks. Good. Let's see here. Why is the turn signal on? Radio's on. Blower's on. Is the amp on? It is. I can see a blue light back there. And brake lights work. That works too. So we are done back here, and when we want to, you just smooth. All right. Well, that does it. Another progress project, getting ready for the engine swap. It's kind of like we're getting all the little bumps in the road out of the way, so that once we're ready, we can just move it in nice and smoothly. We got a lot of great things coming up in the future, including the exhaust, the fuel system, and wiring up the fuel pump as part of all that. So it's going to be some exciting progress coming up soon. Please remember, like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more content. Be kind to each other out there, and when they ask you, tell them you want more.